we're going to catch up with the man who has the pulse on the Texas program, Chip Brown, orangebloods.com. He covers the team better than anybody else. I mean, that dude, he's got it.
Yeah, that guy's dialed in.
For a preview of the Longhorns, let's bring in Chip Brown of orangebloods.com and SiriusXM to the Guild Mortgage Mobile Hotline. Chip, where do we start with this Texas team? I mean, we look at some of these up and down roller coaster rides that teams go on, but it's kind of been the good, the bad, and the ugly with the Longhorns this season.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. I mean, when the season started, the team looked like it was going to be carried by the defense, and that the offense would sort of have to have some training wheel time and figure some things out, and it was the exact opposite. I mean, the offense got off to a good start with David Ash at quarterback through 4 games, actually 5 games. He was probably the team's best player and, was putting up big numbers. He was top 3 in pass efficiency nationally. The defense, meanwhile, just collapsed with the loss of star linebacker Jordan Hicks, and the guys around him and who ultimately tried to replace him were young, and they were expecting to lean on Jordan Hicks, and it just came at a time where they ran into some of the best offenses in the Big 12. Oklahoma State, West Virginia, Oklahoma, and Baylor were all in succession. And those teams just went to town on the Texas defense, and you could see the confidence level of those linebackers just disappear. Plays were getting through them. The secondary was, in a position where they were trying to do too much. They ended up taking bad angles, missed tackles all over the place. And this ended up being the worst statistical defense in school history. So, over the last 5 games, that defense has actually led the Big 12 in scoring defense, total defense, and pass defense. But no one wants to hear about that because that losing streak in the middle of the year included a 63-21 pounding by Oklahoma, and that's really when the fan base sort of started to check out on Mac Brown.
Well, I look at it. Am I wrong in thinking that, all right, Texas, it's the most recognized brand in college sports. You have a top 5 recruiting class every year. You're 3 years removed from a national title game. That there's no excuse for 3 straight years of this.
No question, and it tells you that they've missed terribly in recruiting. That all of the reputation that Mac Brown has built as the recruiting guru. He sort of looks like the Wizard of Oz right now because of the fact that Johnny Manziel, Robert Griffin, the last 2 Heisman Trophy winners, are quarterbacks from the state of Texas, actually near the Austin area. Johnny Manziel from Kerrville, just down the road from Austin. Robert Griffin from Copperas Cove, just up the road from Austin. Andrew Luck came out of Houston. Texas put all its eggs in the quarterback basket with Garrett Gilbert, who walked out at Texas, is now playing at SMU, and Texas has not recovered yet from that. Obviously, they're still trying to figure out what they are at quarterback. David Ash is going to start this game, and as I said, he played well early, but he was demoralized in the loss to Oklahoma, and it sort of hung over him. He played terribly against Kansas in the aftermath of the OU game, and then he turned it over 3 times in a critical loss to TCU at home that really snuffed the progress that Texas was making. At that time, they were still in the mix for a share of the conference title and a BCS bowl berth, and Ash turns it over 3 times in the red zone against TCU, and boom, then they lose to K-State. So no question. They've done a poor job of recruiting, poor job of evaluation, a poor job of developing players. The fans are in a mood that I've never seen. I've covered the program for 20 years. Certainly in the Mac Brown era, the fans, this is a week-to-week relationship right now between the fans and Mac Brown, and they're not really buying what he's selling anymore. Mac Brown needs every win he can get to sort of restore the faith of the fan base right now, because if you took a poll, there would be a whole bunch who would be ready to move on.
Well, yeah, this game to me it's a tale of two teams that no one expected to be here for opposite reasons. Everyone thought Texas was going to be in a BCS game. Never thought Oregon State was going to be a 4-win team. And yet, when I look at this, am I wrong to if I'm an Oregon State fan, I kind of like this matchup for Oregon State.
Yeah, I like Oregon State a lot. I'm picking Oregon State to win because they remind me of TCU and Kansas State.
Yeah.
You know, two teams that play really hard-nosed. They play well together. They're well coached. They have a lot of chemistry, and that's the thing that Texas does not have. I mean, this is a team that really is still trying to figure out if they can trust each other, and that's just not where you want to be. Not going up against a team like Oregon State, who just got Cody Vaz back, who I think is, I think if Mike Riley had to do it over again, maybe he sticks with Cody Vaz in that Washington game or whatever. But this is a good matchup, I think, for Oregon State. And there's a sense of us against the world coming to Texas to play the Longhorns just down the road from their campus. And for Texas, most of the answers are going to come after another off season.
You get the feeling from the players that they want to be at that game, because, I mean, that's one of the big unknowns in bowl games is which guys actually want to be playing. How are they reacting to being, in the third seed out of the Big 12 this year?
Well, these guys are just trying to get out of their own way. I mean, literally, this game is going to come down to guys trying to win jobs.
Okay.
So there will be urgency on the Texas, sideline, because, like, middle linebacker Steve Edmond, number 33, is a guy who looks like an SEC linebacker. He's 6'3", 260, but he's played with so little confidence at times this season that he's just gotten blown backwards in ways you can't believe, and his job's on the line, and he's in a critical position. Same with David Ash at quarterback. I think there will be urgency from that standpoint, that the Texas Longhorns' future is on the line right now. So I think there are enough young players, and the only excuse that Mac Brown can sort of point to is the fact that he does have a loaded sophomore class. I mean, if you look at this roster, 18 of those guys played as freshmen. It includes David Ash, Jackson Shipley, Cedric Reed, a lot of their key playmakers, Quandre Diggs in the secondary. That group is the group that Mac Brown is pinning his hopes to, that as juniors next year, they will take over this team, kind of like the seniors did for Oregon State this year, and turn everything around. So I think there will be urgency from Texas. I just don't know if they're at that point yet where they know they're good. Oregon State knows they're good. They've won games on the road that tell them they're good. Texas has lost 2 in a row. They're hoping they're good. And I think that's the big difference in this game.
Any big news out of the Big 12 with this conference realignment shifting going on? You've been the go-to guy for that over the past few years.
Well, I think there's still some cards yet to be played. I know, it sounds like there's sort of a peace, maybe a stand down for the moment in terms of the Big Ten still shopping around the ACC. I think there are a couple reasons for that. I mean, I think their top target is Georgia Tech. I think Georgia Tech kind of wants to see what's going to happen with the lawsuit involving Maryland. And I think Florida State is now sort of getting proactive about the fact that, well, if another school comes out of the ACC, we may be ready to move. And, their sources have told me that Florida State has put out feelers to the Big Ten. Of course, Florida State is not in the Association of American Universities, which is a prerequisite for Big Ten membership, or has been. Nebraska just lost their AAU accreditation. I think there are still cards that are going to be played. I don't know how quickly they will be played, but if the Big Ten is still shopping around the ACC, that could trigger a massive movement that would ultimately involve the Big 12, because I think the Big 12 looks at Florida State as a game changer, a school that would add a ton of value. And if it got to the point where Florida State said, hey, Clemson, Virginia Tech, Miami, it's time for us to leave, because I know Maryland leaving was a jolt, to say the least, then we could have massive realignment again. Seems like right now everybody's sort of kind of observing, what the ramifications of Maryland leaving are in the ACC.
All right, Chip Brown of OrangeBloods.com. Great stuff. We're going to be definitely in contact with you about any sort of conference realignment here in the near future. Thank you very much for taking a few minutes for us today.
Okay, guys. Happy holidays.
Chip Brown, OrangeBloods.com on the Guild Mortgage mobile hotline.
Who would have thought, like I said, if you would have gone back to the start of the season and said Oregon State, Texas are going to play in a bowl game, and a guy covering Texas is going to like Oregon State and like them a lot in this matchup. And remember, this is a defense for Texas that was billed as the best defense in the country. At the start of the year, I remember flipping through like the ESPN, the magazine, College Football
Florida
Preview.
State.
Yeah, Florida State and Texas were supposed to be the biggest, baddest boys on the block, and that Texas defense has been atrocious, especially in the back half. And I think if you're Cooks and Wheaton, you're taking a long, hard look at that film and saying, boy, there are some big matchups here that we can exploit.
Oh, absolutely. He said distrust in the linebacking core. And if you can have the best lockdown corners in the country, but if you can't cover guys coming across the middle, it is lights out, especially with an offense like Oregon State.
And a lot of the little two-man games that they like to run with those two Oregon State guys on the outside, when they put them on the same side, it's just there's so many different route combinations they can run off of that, and both of these guys aren't afraid to go over the middle. And how many times have you seen Cooks on one of the little skinny posts or on a crossing route where if you hit him in stride and you don't have good coverage,
he gone.
Yeah, he takes a nice little 12, 15-yard gain, and he's going to take it to the house on you. It should be a really, really fun game to watch.
I don't think anybody would have believed it if Chip Brown had come on at the beginning of the year and said what he said on this show, which is Oregon State favored in this game, and that the talent just isn't there at Texas, the University of Texas.
Every year they get a top 5 recruiting class.
Every single year. And they own the state of Texas. The
quarterback thing was interesting, though, that he brought up, and you don't really think about that. But Texas is supposed to be able to, in their state, to get who they want, to the pick of guys, and to let the last 2 Heisman Trophy winners and arguably the best quarterback prospect since John Elway to leave your state. And let's be honest, not exactly go to powerhouse programs. Baylor, Texas A&M, and Stanford, you're not losing these guys to USC and Florida State and Ohio State.
No, you're not. And he even said it. He even said it at the very first Alamo Bowl press conference. I almost lost my job because Mike Riley got James and Jaquiz Rogers. Those are the uphill battles that he's been fighting. Always great stuff from Chip Brown. You can check his work out at OrangeBloods.com. He's also on Sirius XM Radio. He has got his finger on the pulse of the Texas Longhorns program.